Okay, so this morning, the record that I have plucked from my record box to speak about is one that I don't pluck from my record box to listen to very often. And there's a reason for that, and that's that it's quite a mixed record. There is something for everybody on there, but I find from the beginning of the A side to the end of the B side, I don't think it flows particularly well. I don't think it's the best flowing record of all times. The one I'm talking about is this. Queen, A Kind of Magic from 1986. Now what I mean by there's something for everybody on here, well there is. There's silly songs, there's movie theme songs, there's heavy rock songs, which you'd expect, there's ballads, there's all sorts on here. A lot of it does seem a bit disposable to me, in one ear out the other. I always found it a disappointing record by Queen, unlike some of the earlier stuff which is far from disappointing. I do tend to find this quite a disappointing listen, even today. Of course we've got the regular lineup. They were probably the only band that I know of that never changed lineup. The Kind of Magic, the Magic Tour, I did actually catch the Magic Tour when it came to Manchester, Main Road, and I did my first attempt at gig photography, if you can call it that. Essentially, I brought a 110 camera and took some pictures. My memory of the gig was, there you go, that type of thing. So, just crowd shots. You know, I was in the main stand. Obviously, that's the stage there. But yeah, it was a good gig. My main memory of that event was, apart from it being my first ever gig, was there was a bit of trouble. There was a bit of trouble on the pitch with Hell's Angels during the status quo part of the gig. So that wasn't great. But Queen were great. Queen were fantastic. The most memorable moment being Friends Will Be Friends from this record. I don't know why, it just sounded superb. Also, Brian May's guitar solo during Now I'm Here was also a particular highlight of that particular concert. So who was on that bill? Well, should have been Gary Moore and Queen, but it wasn't. It was Status Quo and Queen. So I was a little bit disappointed. I would prefer to have seen Gary Moore and Queen, but Status Quo were superb. It was the only time I ever got to see them. In fact, it was the only time I ever got to see Queen as well, because by the time the next record came out, they weren't touring anymore because they couldn't, because Freddie was so ill. Anyway, let's have a look at this artwork. To me, it's kind of in one eye, out the other. It's a bit silly. This middle bit looks like one of Freddie Mercury's parties. And they seem to want to, I presume it's computer generated, they seem to want to emphasise the point by putting magic on the book here. Book of Magic. Okay, well we get it. No need to ram the point home, but yeah, so I was never enamoured with that sleeve. The songs on here, there are a lot of, too many theme songs from movies. So you've got One Vision, again, from a movie apparently. I've never seen any of these movies. A Kind of Magic, 1 Year of Love, which is instantly forgettable. Pain is so close to pleasure, which is very, very silly. A silly song. And Freddie Mercury's vocals on that are a bit silly. That's the only way I'd describe it. Friends Will Be Friends, which I've always liked. There's something about that. I think it's Brian May's guitar playing. Side 2, Who Wants to Live Forever? That was quite successful for the band. I was surprised by that when that took off the way it did. By the way, this is the 12th LP from the band, and by this stage, to be honest with you, I think they're running out of ideas, and it shows on this. Give Me the Prize, from a film again. Don't Lose Your Head, which is, to me, the heaviest and the most powerful, and where Roger Taylor on drums really starts to kick ass. Princes of the Universe, another good one, another heavy rocker. So there is something on here for everybody, but in general, it's not something I reach for very often. I always find it unsatisfactory. It's like a meal which is, there's something missing. Say someone gives you a small amount of potato, a few old carrots, no meat. That's this. No meat. So it's a shame. But the albums that came after this, again, they had their moments, but they were pretty forgettable, really. This marks the beginning of the decline of Queen as a force in British pop rock music, which is a shame. But at least I got to see them live, and they did all the old classics, of course, and they were very, very good. They were fantastic, actually. So, what did the critics think of this? Well, it got panned. It got slammed. I'm not on here to slam this record. I don't want to, because it has its moments. It is what it is. I think they were inspired by the Live Aid gig a year before to get off their arses, their rich arses, and do something. And this is what they did. So it has its moments. It does have its moments. Critics hated it. Kerrang asked the question, is this really a real Queen album, or is it just Queen throwing together music for a movie? Now, the soundtrack is nowhere near as bad as some of the movie soundtracks that came out by some very well-known artists of the day, but is it really a Queen album? Good question from Kerrang. As far as the charts go, well, it got to number 1 in Argentina, of all places. Number 2 in Holland. And number 1 in the UK. So it did really, really well in the UK. In America, number 46. So neither here nor there. But it sold a hell of a lot in the UK. I mean, we got to ridiculous amounts of 600,000. 600,000, but it didn't actually sell 1 million anywhere. But we got to 600,000 in this country, and I think that's because there is something for everybody on here, and that's why the public embraced it. Plus, the singles were massive as well. One Vision was absolutely huge. I think that went to number 1. So, all in all, not a great effort from the legendary Queen, but as I say, it did start to show the band on a downward spiral. But that comes to all great bands. No great band can live forever. They just can't, unfortunately. So, that's Queen, A Kind of Magic from 1986.